You know, it's almost like your birthday with a package from China, so let's go. Another one on my list of favorite devices that are actually worth picking up is the Super Console X3 Pro. The name already says it, I mean not the Pro, just the X3. This is actually the improved chip, or it's a little bit better power, so we do have overall better support. But what makes this thing one of my favorite ones is not this weird, let's say 8K Ultra HD shenanigans, because that is most of the time a lie. These games are not running on 4K, 8K and all those crazy things. So what you're actually getting with these devices sometimes is just some 1080p output. And as already said, like most of the games are just running on native resolution. However, when you're getting into this device, I did notice that the quality wise, this thing is quite nice. And with nice, I can actually say better, this thing feels like a really nice quality product because of the case. This gives like a more console feeling, having an on and off switch at the front, enough USB ports, and of course the two Wi-Fi antennas you can attach. So where we don't really need any Wi-Fi connection for playing actual games, but if you need to update the system, we can just do it fairly easy, having an option for an SD card and just the necessary ports to connecting this to an HDMI device. If it's a television or a monitor, if it has speakers and HDMI input, you can actually use this device without any problem. But what makes this thing actually pro, or why I actually just love this thing, is that it comes with a built-in storage device like a hard disk. You can swap it out with an SSD if you're going to be cloning the disk, but this is a super convenient way because you can slap in a 1-2 terabyte normal drive for not a lot of money and have like a lot of crazy storage. Particularly when it comes to emulation performance, you can combine this with some, let's say Dreamcast, Sega Saturn and also PlayStation 1, and you have enough storage to store all of your games. And the way how this thing is configured, the overall quality, I was quite surprised by it. I just love this thing with the on and off switch, the nice case design, enough USB ports, great cooling and a 2.5 inch drive upgrade, and we can switch it out to a big one if you want to. It's great for 8-bit and 60-bit, and we do have, let's say, a little bit better performance when it comes to systems like Sega Dreamcast. But this is a great example where we do have a little bit more power than the previous model we discussed here in this video. This thing has a very cool overall, let's say, library of systems, with the newer EmuElec having a little bit better options when it comes to emulators, a lot of new improvements, and it has like a significant upgrade of the other version, where the price range between both of the Cube and the Pro are very slim. So I think if you're going to be getting a Pro version like this, we have better performance, but also we have some cool features like the hard drive. That is absolutely a good thing if you want to emulate PlayStation 1, Dreamcast and Sega Saturn, because they take up so much space, and when an SD card it's not going to be enough, or if you're having like a 1 terabyte, I think these things don't even support a 1 terabyte SD card, it's going to be so much more expensive and it makes no sense whatsoever. And with a game like Assault Rigs, this was pretty damn a shame because it's such a cool game with funky music. And let's be honest, the music of the game is the soul of it. However, the story is kind of similar like with the Cube we'll be discussing. So yeah, we can actually play a lot of different systems, but PlayStation Portable struggles and many other devices too. So, but still, if you want to get something basic, but you do want to have like a cheap upgrade storage possibility, I think the X3 Pro combined with this cooling performance, this is absolutely a very cool device. And we do have options to actually play many different games. But again, the Pro is necessary with this, let's say, SATA drive in the inside if you want to play some PlayStation 1. You have like a massive library, we're going to be needing a lot of space, and SD cards are just not a good option because they're way too expensive when it comes to that. So we've been chit-chatting about all kinds of emulation solutions. So having very cheap game sticks, we're having multi-platform game sticks, even game boxes for low power chip, but also very low prices. So you can just actually get yourself some plug and play PCs that are able to run many games that the other cheap stuff couldn't. But the question remains, is this anything good for you? So I just wanted to check out what are options. So starting off with the N100 chip, that is actually quite nice. Where this is not like a superb powerhouse that can play everything, it does have an option for upscaling. And that is one of the things I love about the N100. And of course we're also deep diving into some more expensive products that I've picked up throughout the years. And we can even push emulation to the next level with those. However, PC also have the benefit of having Batocera, and personally I'm a big Batocera fan because they're getting a lot of updates, a lot of new cool tweaks, and we can even implement, for example, light guns. However, we're going to be focusing on the emulation itself, of course, so let's deep dive into that and what we can do, starting off with the N100. But I just want to be clear about one thing. If you're going to be looking on AliExpress and buying an N100 PC, yeah, that is going to be so much more cheaper and you will have actually the same results. However, the Chinese are actually doing the same thing sometimes, just grabbing a PC from the shelf, maybe putting a sticker on it saying Supreme Console blah blah, and putting a hard drive in it or externally. However, it's going to be having the same results, so I just want to be clear about that, so you can make it yourself if you want to. But again, we're going to be focusing on more like plug and play solutions, what can actually play all kinds of different systems. If you want to grab something plug and play from AliExpress, but you do want to have something that is capable of running more and has less limitations, this very strange looking 3D printed case is actually some of the things you can consider with the N100 mainboard in the inside, where they're using in China a lot of old parts when it comes to PCs. This is a brand new part so far, I understand. The case itself is debatable if you like it or not. However, this is a very interesting option, plug and play ready, and you can play actually thousands of different games. Yep, sliding it out, you can see they're using just a Batocera drive in here, a single slot of RAM, and having the N100, a brand new board, so that's absolutely cool with an active situation. But this is quite interesting because this is a board that has a lot of options when it comes to emulation itself. We do have some more options now, so don't expect like say supreme performance with super upscaling. Yeah, PlayStation 1, we can maybe do a little bit on upscaling. PlayStation 3 is in my opinion out of the question, and yeah, we do have overall better performance with Atomic Wave, having some better Dreamcast Saturn, and maybe you can even do a little bit on upscaling, and I think that is a very cool overall option with the N100. I wanted to do a little bit on upscaling of 720p, and the main reason is just wanted to see how far we can push it. Take note that the GPU of the Handhelds are not my favorite ones on board, with a simple reason, because these things do struggle. We can also lower to 480p, and also depending what kind of game you want to play, but some games are very easy to emulate and you can just even maybe get a little bit of a higher resolution going on. So next up, the GameCube, another great system with very nice titles. However, if you want to play some games with this, we can do a little bit of an upscaling. However, I've been testing it with 1080p, but this is way too much. And also depending what kind of game. If you have two-dimensional games, you can do a crazy upscaling where we're having like so three-dimensional games. We have, let's say, less overall performance when you're going to be upscaling to higher stuff. So if you're on a budget and we do want to have a little bit more options when it comes to emulation, this mini PC is a plug-and-play N100 solution. And of course, if you're going to be making it yourself, it's going to be so much more significant cheaper. So this was actually the most powerful retro gaming machine they released from the Super Console X line. However, this was just a mini PC you can also buy separately, and that's the reason I wanted to focus on the mini PCs, because this particular solution has also been upgraded, and also bought that one too, and I did some crazy cool emulation and gaming on these devices. But what China does, we can also do it ourselves, and I mean particularly when it comes to adding some Batocera to it, because that is the thing they're doing. So this G6 Super Console X was very expensive, and I just wanted to pick it up anyway. However, when you're going to be looking at the PC, the design was quite nice, but specification wise, so this thing, I love the design, but it has like an overall, let's say, an older i9 9th generation 8 core in it with a GTX 1650. This is going to be enough for a lot of emulation, but yeah, one of the things, let's do a quick look in the inside, and here you can just actually see there is just a simple 2TB platter disk in here that has the Batocera. And that is one of the things, you can just make them yourself and slap them into a mini PC and have the same result, having your own Super Console X. And that is actually not the same amount of money as this particular one, or maybe it is, but you're getting like maybe 10 times the performance. However, depending how you're going to be building it and where you're getting your mini PC, of course. Alright, so next up I wanted to play some PlayStation 1 with full HD resolution in combination with DuckStation, just to see how it runs and how stable it is. Of course, now we have like such a powerful box that we can play easily games like this on higher resolutions. Pretty damn cool. It still looks like shit. Let's force them into 4:3 aspect ratio now. You can even like have a widescreen hack if you want to, but I'm not going to do that. Keep it simple, higher resolution. Alright, so let's see how it runs on 720p. Oh crap, wrong button. In the previous Super Console mini PC, they had a lot of issue because it was not powerful enough, but with power like this, they should be having no problem whatsoever. I have set it to 1080p. I'm just curious like how fast it will load up and how it will run. Now we do have some weird glitching going on, maybe we can fix with another thing, but I just wanted to see how the speed of the game is. Because yet, with the Vulkan backend, we can even push it up to 1080p. We're normally going to nerf the freaking PlayStation Portable. We're just going to push it to the maximum level. We're going to leave the buffered on, everything that we're normally going to do with tweaking to getting the best performance. We're even going to upscale it to 1080p, just to see how we're going to get some results. We do some minor hiccups here and there, but beside that, we do get an amazing performance. But getting into the most expensive, yeah, that was actually one of the most expensive gaming PC emulator retro devices I actually picked up. So this was an i9 12th generation with an RTX 3050 in the inside, and the 3050 was by the way also in a TI. However, they also have now a 4060, and later in the future is going to be having more power for the same amount of money actually. However, this i9 was a quite nice powerhouse when it comes for emulation and performance itself. Well, of course, this thing comes with Windows built in, so if you're not going to be using the Batocera drive, you can actually play some really cool AAA titles. When it comes to an indie games or an old school games like Saints Row 4, yeah, you can actually play a lot of cool stuff on higher, let's say, graphics with 1080p and do a little bit of tweaking maybe to 2 or 4K, but I wouldn't really recommend it with a mini PC like this.
Turn around when it is safe to do so.
Starting off with some PlayStation 2 and my favorite game Tekken 4. Nevertheless, we're having absolutely amazing overall performance with PlayStation 2, and you can even upscale it to higher resolutions if you want to without any problem. So what is really convenient if you're going to be loading up PlayStation 3 games with such a powerful chip, the loading times are so significantly shorter compared to, let's say, the low-end chips I've checked out in the past. And also when it comes to the resolution, here we can even upscale it a little bit and getting amazing PlayStation 3 emulation performance. PlayStation Portable, no restrictions, we can put it in the highest setting and everything set to the maximum level to make these games look absolutely stunning. With maximum power and even newer chips, we're having overall better performance. If you're having an Xbox Classic or you want to even do a little bit of an Xbox 360 emulation, those systems will run perfectly or even better in the future. Of course, we're having already some emulator updates throughout the years, so we're also going to be better performance on these lower end or older chips. So in overall, I think it's quite cool to see what you can do, and with the most powerful PC, here we can play all kinds of emulation to a point that we have no limitations at all. But with a lot of power, we have so many cool emulation possibilities. With the Emulator for Dreamcast, we can even put it on the highest settings, no problem whatsoever. But then of course we have ourselves the custom made or the DIY game box emulator you can make for yourself, and you can make them quite cheap. Having all kinds of mini PCs available, and depending on where you're living, we have different kind of, let's say, places. Think about eBay or some other marketplaces you're having. AliExpress also contains a lot of cheap new mini PCs, and it's kind of interesting. I've been testing all kinds of different versions to see what kind of performance we can actually have from those, and I think it's more like a debatable situation. Is like, what is the price you're paying for them and what kind of performance do you get, and of course what do you want to play, because the reason why this video was so extended with all kinds of different options, with a simple reason, because there are so many different ways to play, and sometimes you don't need to spend a lot of money on a very expensive PC to just play 8-bit or 16-bit games. I hope this video helped out to give you an idea what are the options out there for the best emulator. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, hit that little bell, let me know in the comments what kind of platforms do you love to play and what kind of machine did you build, because you can just yourself like a new PC or an old PC and do all kinds of amazing things. And it would be great to see you in the next video.